So $1.2 billion, that's the shortfall Colorado's looking for right now, or at least looking at right now. So I want to say it one more time because it deserves a little bit of respect. $1.2 billion, that's the state's deficit we're looking at. That seems like an incredibly large number. How do you deal with something like that?
2 years in a row,
Yeah.
because in 2025's legislative session, we were looking at another $1.2 billion shortfall. So we shook the couch cushions in this last session, and they're all cleaned out now.
Yeah.
So it's time that we have to really get started and get serious and do the right thing for the citizens of the state of Colorado.
State Senator Lisa Frizell, I've known her for several years. You served with me in the House, or I served with you, I guess I should say, in the House of Representatives before you moved into the Senate. I really appreciate you talking to us. You serve and represent the people of Douglas County. You also served as the tax assessor in Douglas County for several years, many years, I would say. So you're exactly the right person to talk to about this. So it looks like the governor is going to call a special session. If he does do so, and it looks like that's most probably going to happen, you all are going to have to tackle some really big problems. First of all, that $1.2 billion, since it's a one-topic special session. Where do you begin with that? Where do you start tackling that? Where do you start filling that hole in?
Well, it depends on which side of the aisle you sit on. The governor spoke to me as recently as last week and talked about his plan to start over with Medicaid reimbursement cuts and also cutting back on K through 12 education.
Reimbursement cuts, what does that mean exactly? So if you cut reimbursement for Medicaid, what does that mean for Coloradans?
So what that means, and I should be more specific, it's Medicaid provider rates.
Okay.
So the state actually sets the rate at which Medicaid providers are reimbursed for a variety of different services that they provide
with tax dollars.
Yeah, with tax dollars. And so if you cut those provider rates, you have a savings right there off the top. The problem with that is about 20% of the citizens of Colorado are actually enrolled in Medicaid. And if you cut the Medicaid provider rate, that really makes it very, very unattractive for health care providers to provide Medicaid services. And if we keep cutting, which we've done already, Colorado is just going to be very unattractive for these health care providers to treat Medicaid eligible citizens. So they might even leave the state and go to a different state to practice medicine, or they may stay here and just stop taking Medicaid patients entirely.
So to be really practical about what that means, so my doctor, if I'm on Medicaid, a doctor's visit, let's say it costs $100 for me to go see my doctor and get a shot or something like that. The state, the reimbursement, if they cut that fee, my doctor gets shortchanged. My doctor will no longer get that $100, might get 90 or 80 or even less.
Correct.
Meaning my doctor may not take me as a patient any longer, or may leave to go to another state to practice medicine where they get paid more money.
Correct.
That seems like a real problem for Coloradans.
It's a huge problem for Coloradans, and it's one that we've been grappling with as a state, gosh, for several years now. That always seems to be the easy pot for my colleagues from across the aisle to dip into, because it's easy money, if you will. It's not something like making sure that the lieutenant governor is only receiving one salary instead of two, which she is currently receiving two salaries. Really looking at all the one-time funds, one-time ARPA funds that the state of Colorado got and built into their budget on an ongoing basis. When we talk about a structural deficit, that's what we're looking at, because Colorado took one-time ARPA funds, built them into an ongoing budget, which is not sustainable.
You talk about cutting Medicaid, education, K through 12. That seems like that touches almost every single Coloradan.
Yeah.
Where does that cut look like? Is it in building new schools? Is it hiring new teachers? What would that cut look like? And do you have any idea what that amount might be?
I don't know what the amount might be. I think that that's something that is going to be hashed out in either a special session or next year's legislative session in 2026. We're going to be dealing with a lot of these things, not in a special session, but in next year's session. What that looks like is, yeah, it could be schools, it could be teachers, it could be what teachers are paid, because all that money comes back on a per pupil reimbursement rate from the state of Colorado into school districts all around the state of Colorado.
It's interesting to me because the governor, and I obviously dealt with him a lot, talked to him a lot, had many conversations with him when I worked in the Capitol as deputy chief of staff, and he considers himself the education governor. I've got to believe this is going to be a difficult sell for him, cutting education in our state, and also a last resort. How do you believe he'll frame this?
I think that they're going to frame it as one of necessity, that we don't have any other choice, and they're going to blame it on the federal government policies. And that's just not real or fair, because the state has been run by the Democrats for years and years and years now, and they need to own this. And to blame it on federal government policies just recently instituted is patently unfair. So when we talk about depriving kids of education dollars, that's a huge issue for every citizen in this state, because our kids are our future. We must provide for them. We must make sure that they're educated properly so that they can be successful in life.
Right. Well, there's only, and you know this is simple math, there's only two ways to fill up a hole. It's either to stop spending or to generate more revenue. Will the special session, do you believe, will it address both those things? Will it be addressing Colorado's spending problem, or will it be trying to generate new revenue through TABOR or tax increases? How do you think that will play out?
I am not sure. And the reason why I'm not sure is that the Democrats have been creating policy in a vacuum all summer long. Right. They've been working through this. They had anticipated and ran legislation preemptively during the 2025 session, just in case the president's big, beautiful bill passed. Mm-hmm. What all of those things are going to be, I'm not sure. I do believe Medicaid rate provider cuts that's going to be top of the list. I believe K through 12 is going to be top of the list. And I say that because that's where the governor started with the 2025 $1.2 billion deficit. Right. That's where he started.
As I walk through my city and I talk to business owners and residents, and I'll tell you the conversations I have are all fear related. I mean, especially realtors and insurance brokers and people starting new businesses. They tell me the costs are really high. They're afraid that the markets will turn, that real estate prices will change. There's a bubble. They're not sure how to plan, especially when there's uncertainty with a special session. That sounds scary to them, to I think outside investors as well. What is your message as a lawmaker, a policymaker in this state, to people in my city, to business owners, to real estate agents, those kinds of hardcore businesses in our state, about the special session, about tackling a $1.2 billion shortfall?
Well, I think what we're hoping to do is come up with common sense solutions, but whether those solutions are taken is a whole nother thing. The problem is over the last 6 years, the state budget has just blown up. We have added 1,000 employees per year over the last 6 years, which is mind-boggling to me. That's not responsible governance at all. And what we have done from a policy perspective, going back to our friends in the business community, is we have continually introduced risk as far as business goes, the whole business community goes, whether it is implementing policies or creating new fees and new regulations. All of those things have added to and compounded the amount of risk that it is to do business in the state of Colorado anymore, to the point that Colorado is now the sixth most regulated state for business. 6 out of 50.
That's new. That's really new.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
And it's a bad reflection on the state of Colorado when it comes to business retention, business attraction.
Right.
And so, we've got to do better. And when I talk to my friends in the business community, that's something that I hear loud and clear, and I speak to from the dais all the time.
Be optimistic for me in a minute. Even as I said it out loud, it made me laugh. What is the best case scenario coming out of this special session? What would be the best, in your view, for the state, for Coloradans moving forward? What would be the best scenario?
So I think one of the most important things that needs to happen is rolling back some, if not all, of the $1.4 billion in tax credits that were passed in the 2024 general session. Let me say that again. In 2024, the state legislature passed $1.4 billion in tax credits, one of which is running around $600 to $700 million a year alone. Those need to be shelved, and because we simply can't afford them. That's a starting place. And I think that is a place that the Democrats do understand that they need to step back from. So that we do. We need to look at things like the lieutenant governor's second salary, some common sense solutions that are in the budget that should not be in the budget. I mean, heck, last year we gave inmates a huge increase, a 10% increase in their wages.
Wow.
These are people in the state penitentiary got a 10% increase. Did your constituents in Castle Pines get a 10% increase? Because I know in Castle Rock and Parker, the folks that I represent, they didn't.
No.
And so it's things like that we need to look at, and it's hard work. It's really, really, really hard work. So, going back to the 2025 $1.2 billion deficit, there were some very difficult conversations that happened on the Joint Budget Committee. Barb Kirkmeyer, who is the Republican Senate representative on the Joint Budget Committee, she was telling us about 4 hours they negotiated cutting $100,000. We don't have that kind of time. We need to cut to the chase. Let's be realistic and start making cuts. Further, it's really important for the governor's departments to understand that they need to cut their budgets. They need to institute hiring freezes. That's how we chisel away at this. And it's not going to be fast. There's no easy answer, but we have to get to it.
Lisa Frizell, Senator Lisa Frizell, representing District 2, State of Colorado. I appreciate your time. Before I let you go, though, one last question. We're in the beautiful state capitol, the People's House. Yeah. What's your favorite part of this building?
Oh my gosh. My favorite part is when you can step out the window from either chamber. In the House, they have a big window, and in the Senate, we have a big window. You can open the window and step out onto the balcony. It's kind of like a magic door. Yeah. But this building is so full of beauty and all of the things that make Colorado a special place. Yeah. So come visit.
Yeah, the history is amazing. If you haven't been to the state capitol, come visit. Anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Take care.